What I'm about to show you is totally real. It's not AI, it's not a skit. I couldn't believe it when I saw it myself and had to triple check if it was real. And it was. This strange occurrence took place at the Unite the Kingdom rally, an anti-immigration rally cosplaying as a free speech festival, led by none other than Tommy Robinson himself. That already tells you a lot about the event. But first, let's hear from one of its most notable speakers. A 8-year-old girl with definitely not anyone else's opinions about Keir Starmer's leadership.
Thank you, Tommy. Right, listen up, Keir. You're making an embarrassment of yourself, mate. You might as well resign now.
Anyway, no, that wasn't the absurd thing. Because in London, England, at this rally, alongside all the free speech activities and songs and revelry, there was also this performance, which might be the most quintessentially British thing I have ever seen.
This is the song I had to write. The working man and all the single mothers. That's why we fight to keep our freedom, freedom, freedom.
Yeah, that's an American country song being performed at a Unite the Kingdom rally. The exact sort of music you'd hear down the pub on a Tuesday evening in Somerset. I am, for lack of better words, deeply weirded out by this because it's so unashamedly an export from MAGA that it's difficult to even process. Is that a dude playing cello with Rob Bacon strapped to himself? Is that Nick fucking Shirley? What the fuck is he doing there? MAGA isn't even trying to disguise that it's exporting its ideology anymore. They're not sending their best and brightest, but it is an effort nonetheless. What's on display here doesn't just look like your regular anti-Islam march, it's more standardized than that, more mass market. There's a little something for everyone.
How many genders are there? It's all Christian persecution in Nigeria.
Take it off! Take it off! Take it.
You're going to get shown pictures of people. I want the strongest reaction you have when you see that image.
Let me hear it. USA! USA! USA!
That's why we fight to keep our freedom.
MAGA slopulism is being exported to other countries because, unfortunately, it's an incredibly lucrative business model and an incredibly effective political strategy as well. It has franchise opportunities with international reach now. These days, with all the bots you can pay for, all the headlines you can manufacture, and all the algorithms ready to aim them at the people they'll outrage the most, political anger doesn't even need to stay or even be sourced locally anymore, and that just makes it all the more functional and lucrative. People in Birmingham, Alabama can't believe Birmingham in the UK is a no-go zone for white people, and white people in Birmingham in the UK cannot stand the Somali fraud in Minnesota that citizen journalist Nick Shirley so bravely and professionally unearthed. Every panicked story about immigrants invading feeds the same narrative. A once great civilization is being ruined on purpose. And once you've convinced people that they're being invaded, violent resistance is just inevitable. It just makes sense.
As men, British men, we need to get fight ready because a fight's coming to this country.
So why not do your part in the fight? Why not donate a few quid to some good old patriots, huh?
You're always asking for money, yeah? Yeah, look what we've just put on. The biggest event in British history!
This is how the anti-globalists globalized their grievances. The strong borders crowd discovered that hate migrates and integrates rather more effectively than foreigners do. Now, everyone their message reaches can be terrified of what's happening to someone else's country or just the next town over, furious about problems that don't affect them and might not even be real. If London's safe, the problem's in Luton. If Manchester's fine, there's always Malmo in Sweden to bring up. Unserious, loud personalities telling louder lies, fucking vibe-coding populism can't be the way we're doing politics now. But it is. So they cite made-up statistics.
I've just watched the helicopter footage from today. Wow, Britain! We are here in our millions!
They sell nostalgia for a time when people supposedly had less to be angry about and were happier, while feeding into that anger and taking away from that happiness incessantly in the present. Hatred doesn't need a solid foundation in facts or logic. any reason will do so long as it pokes you in the right way. What hatred provides, that awfully satisfying sense of unity amongst people that feel disaffected, is unfortunately compelling enough to win elections and make people feel like they are on the right side of history, when sometimes they really, really demonstrably aren't. And worst of all, it doesn't even need to be coherent, and in a way that's even better, because what was Unite the Kingdom? A right-wing march? A far right-wing march? A centrist, joyful event celebrating unity and family, while casually throwing in comments about grooming gangs like this?
They called for Lucifer while they placed children in microwaves, ovens, and freezers.
You see, a big problem with political speech these days is that everything in movements like this exists somewhere between meme and malice, with just enough political intent that you can feel what the vibes really are, but just enough insincerity that you can never quite pin it down. I mean, was this hateful or hopeful?
For every one of you in the audience, I want you to look to the person to your left and to your right. Take in their beautiful eye colour, take in their beautiful skin colour, look at the vibrance in the trees, take it in.
My vote is on hateful, but if you ask these people, they're not racist. They don't hate anybody. They just don't want to lose their country, and they really feel like they are. So no, to them it wasn't an anti-Muslim festival, it was a Unite the Kingdom against Muslims and migrants festival. Those are totally different things, and to call that Islamophobic would be absurd. I mean, one speaker slapped bacon body armor to himself, as if prejudice becomes less vile when you perform it like a pantomime, and another said Islam cannot be allowed in any part of government, which technically, if you believe in the separation of church and state, is fine, right? So let's not allow any Ramadan celebrating Muslim mayors anymore, huh? And while we're at it, let's put up the 10 Commandments everywhere, because those are just nice modern rules for life. Huh, Jordan?
What do you mean, do?
Pick up a cross, you deeply religious Brit. It'll be just like the Crusades, but like a family event too. Just hate everyone outside the lines that are drawn for you, and make sure you don't cross those lines yourself, okay? Hate the migrants, the minorities, the journalists, the elites, the feminists, and everyone that got vaccinated too. And once you've gotten rid of what you hate, you can reignite a past that never existed, in a country that was never perfect, and never provided the dignity that people yearn for. A dignity they rob themselves of further in the very act of yearning for it. Because there is nothing as undignified as falling for clumsy slop like this. But people do fall for it. They fall for symbols they're told mean something more. They fall for cheap slogans and promises of change, enough to raise millions for and put into power people who are only good at stirring up anger. So this MAGA methodology is cheap in the moral and technical sense, but it is super effective. And it's also really dangerous, make no mistake. If extremity is what gets attention, then eventually the people rewarded for saying extreme things become the people with permission to do extreme things. A movement that radicalizes itself for attention doesn't exactly set itself up for a stable future, only further escalation.
You either fight back or you die.
And this is not just a UK or US problem. You have to be careful because this version of politics is coming your way wherever you are in the world. There's just too much money and power in making ordinary people feel like soldiers in a righteous civilizational war. Too much profit in taking complicated problems, rejecting nuance and responsibility, and opportunistically firing people's anger. All that energy they helped accumulate, all that need for things to change in whatever direction seems both the most different and the least capable of defending itself. And what's worse is, it's fun. It's a path of least resistance to power for people who have completely avoided the unfun thinking and planning part and function solely on vibes, pints, and a few lines of coke. Look, I'm sure it feels great to stand in the middle or at the front of a crowd and feel your anger acknowledged, shared, and amplified by so many others. I'm sure it feels fulfilling to pretend that your loosely held values are proof of your superiority over people who look different, think differently, pray differently, or fuck differently to you. It's exciting to take part in these grand things you only see on social media and not care about the consequences, because then and only then you are free from all the tiresome shit life throws your way. So you might as well do it all to the delicate twang of country music. Take it easy.